Hello everybody, welcome to part 2, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at some defensive ends that I think might go a little bit later in the draft, but I actually have a little more interest in. So let's start with Mike Morris, Michigan Wolverine, 22 years old. This guy unfortunately mostly got attention at the Combine for performing kind of badly, but just because he performed badly at the Combine doesn't necessarily make him a bad player. In fact, I think that the areas in which he fell short showed that he may not be a good edge player in the NFL, but maybe, just maybe, you move him to the inside a little bit and he'll be a little bit better. So let's take a look at this guy. 6'5", 275 pounds, so a little bit lean, maybe we can say, but also a little bit heavy for edge work. So maybe this is going to be a guy who needs to either add 10 pounds or drop 10 pounds. 33.5-inch arms, pretty good. 10-inch hands. His combine work, like I said, not very good. He almost broke 5 seconds on his 40. 10-yard split was 1.72. That's not what you want from an edge player. So that's probably not his best possible role. But hey, that's okay, right? That could be okay for us. His jumps were passable, I suppose. The big boards, little bit of variance here. Sports Illustrated likes him in the third. The Draft Network likes him right on the fringe of the third to the fourth round, as does PFF. ESPN thinks he's a more of a fifth rounder, actually. CBS thinks he's a sixth rounder. The aggregate of the mock draft database says 126, which would be basically mid to late fourth round. So taking the average, that's the expectation. After the Combine, I think that's probably a pretty reasonable thought. I mean, this guy did produce quite a bit in 2022. He started playing a little bit more as a playmaker. I think he started playing a little more on the edge for the Wolverines defense. And he produced 11 tackles for loss in 12 games, 7.5 sacks. And he was a key contributor on 2 top 10 defenses. So he definitely deserves your respect and acknowledgement of his ability. But is he a fit for what we need here? So what I can say about Mike Morris from what I saw, stout run defender. He's good with his hands, and we talk about that sometimes when it comes to players on the defensive line. It's not just about your strength or your speed. It's also, can you use your hands to shed blockers and win battles? He's got a pretty decent amount of length. 33.5 inches works totally fine. The pass rush ability he showed in 2022 was promising, like I said, although again, we need to consider the context of that pass rush ability. He's a smart player, and he plays with power, and he also shows the versatility to play from 2 and 3-point stances. So the issues with Mike Morris as a player, he's tall, and in this case, yes, I do think that doesn't work to his advantage because it makes him have leverage problems. Even though I think he plays the run pretty well, I don't think you want to move him inside necessarily, because when he gets double teamed, that's going to push him out of the play a lot. He's still developing as a pass rusher. He's not going to be able to immediately contribute as one. I don't know. This isn't a guy who I like a little more than the guys we looked at yesterday, but I still don't know, is he going to be an inside player or an edge player? If I had to guess, I'd say he ends up as a 4-3-5 tech, maybe a Michael Bennett type, and that doesn't really have any place on this defense. So I like the prospect. I like the flexibility. I don't know what he's going to be at the end of the day, so I can't feel too strongly about him. I think he's worth a fourth-round pick, but for the Seahawks, I think you have to wait till the 5th. All right, so that's Mike Morris. Let's move along here to Colby Wooden of Auburn, and now we're getting into the stuff that really kind of grabs me. 22 years old, 6'4", 273 pounds, so again, maybe a little bit slighter than you would like. Maybe he needs to add 8 to 10 pounds to feel good about it. I don't know. But honestly, even as it is, I feel pretty good. Remember, he may have dropped weight right before the Combine so he could do the drills better, and he did do the drills very well, actually. 33 and 3/4 inch arms, 10 and 3/8 inch hands, so measurements are solid. 4.7940, really good for a guy who's probably going to play on the interior. He showed great explosiveness, 10.68 10-yard split, almost broad jumped 10 feet, or almost over 9.5 feet at least. Good 20-yard shuttle, 4.52, and bench press was good as well. A couple of big boards have him going in day 2. The Draft Network actually thinks he'll be a second-round pick. ESPN thinks he'll be a late third. PFF, CBS both have him in the 4th. Sports Illustrated has him in the 5th. The aggregate from Mock Draft Database says 108, which would be an early 4th-round pick. So that's what we're going to go with for now, but it won't shock me if he goes in the 3rd. Very productive these last 2 years. 25 games, had 106 tackles, including 19 for a loss, 20 for a loss, 10.5 sacks. Really good numbers for an interior defensive lineman. Also, that 2021 Auburn defense was actually really good, 27th in the nation. He's got experience playing inside and outside. I know for our purposes, we're looking at him as more of an inside player, but he lined up all over the place, all across that defensive line for Auburn during his career there, and that flexibility is a plus for sure. He's got pass rush moves. This is not somebody who just wins with his bull rush. This is somebody who can do stunts. This is somebody who has some like legitimate like moves, like, the swim move. He's got, the spin move. He can do these things, and he's showing the ability to win with them at the college level at least. But he's also strong against the run. He holds up really well in run defense. He's got a talent for being able to shed blocks as well. A blocker gets his hands on him, he's shown the ability to like get him off and go make the play, but he also has a bull rush. So this guy has a lot in his arsenal. I do believe that he'll be able to play all 3 downs at some point in the NFL, and he's a great fit for a 3-4. Even though I said, 273 pounds, you'd like him to be a little heavier. He probably is a little bit heavier and dropped weight so he could run faster. By the time he gets to the NFL, he'll probably be back up to his playing weight, which I would assume is closer to like 280. So you put all that together, he's kind of a perfect fit for what we need. He's able to contribute now, but he'll be able to contribute a lot later as well. And he's a fit for our defense, I think. He is a little tall, 6'4". Some have said he's actually 6'5". He does lose leverage battles, and he does kind of... one thing the scouts say is, he pops straight up at the snap, which sometimes means like you're going to lose the leverage battle because you're too vertical. You're playing too high. He didn't always give maximum effort in college. Part of that was because Auburn kept cycling through coaches, and none of those coaches was able to get the most out of Wooden. He needs to learn how to use his hands a little bit better, and overall he's just an inconsistent player. I do think he'll make contributions early, but the right coach, the right system, the right development could make him a star. So to me, this is the first guy I've seen in this group that I'm really excited about. I might even be willing to spend a 3rd-round pick on this guy. Maybe a 4th. So that leaves us with one more guy for this video. We're going to do Zacch Pickens, South Carolina. And this is a guy I kind of feel somewhat similarly about. 23 years old, 6'4", 291 pounds, so a little bit heavier. 34.5-inch arms, very nice. Big hands. Did pretty good in the drills for a guy who's over 290, 4.89 40 times, solid for a guy his size. 10-yard split, good enough. He jumped really well for a guy who's almost 300 pounds, 30.5 inches, 9'8" broad, 3 cones, 7.45, workable. So his combine scores were really good for a man of his size. 2 big boards have him going in the 3rd, CBS and ESPN. PFF and the Draft Network have him going in the 4th. Sports Illustrated has him going more like the 6th. The aggregate says the 4th. That's kind of what I expect. But like I said about Wooden, don't be shocked if it's the 3rd. So his stats the last 2 years have been really good. He's played in 25 games, giving you 80 tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks. Not a ton of big splash plays in the backfield, but some. And he was part of some okay defenses, at least in 2021. He was 46th overall. That's above average. So Pickens is another guy who played all over the place in college, all over the interior. He was doing 0 tech, 1 tech, 3 tech. He did all kinds of different roles in South Carolina, and he did it well. And one thing that should be said about Pickens, he was a 5-star out of high school. He never got to where people were hoping he would get to in college. But coming out of high school, he was supposed to be the next big thing. And the reason why is because of his amazing physical traits. He's big, he's strong, he's athletic, he's got long arms. Like, this guy kind of has everything. He just never totally put it together in college. He only put it together a little bit. With what he did put together, though, he is disruptive in the backfield. Even though he's an interior lineman, he wins pass rush reps with his speed. That's something that he shows really well. He also can shed blocks really well. And there's versatility here. He can play the run and the pass. He will probably become a 3-down player in the NFL. He does lose leverage when he can't win with speed. Like, sometimes if his initial pass rush move doesn't work, he gets stuck because he's a little bit taller than you would like, maybe. If he gets double teamed, he can get washed out of the play. He's not somebody who's going to work against double teams the way elite defensive linemen do. He does need to improve his technique. This is probably a big part of the reason why he's not a first-round pick. He might be a first-round pick if he had lived up to his high school expectations. As it stands, he might be a fourth-round pick. He is going to need to be coached up into being the best version of himself, as I wrote down here. He's got some stuff to work on, but this is an opportunity to get a guy who has first-round talent in the fourth round. And I think it's a good fit for our defense. I think it's a good fit for our program. I like it. So obviously he didn't become that college superstar, but he can realize his potential in the NFL. So I'm all over this one personally, just like I was with Wooden. I'm all over Zacch Pickens. He's another guy. I say the same thing of him that I said of Wooden. I would make him one of my prime targets in the fourth, but he might be worth a third-round pick. Might be worth that third-round pick. And if we spent like a late third round, like we traded around a little bit and ended up with a late third round pick and we spent it on Wooden or Pickens, I'd be very happy with that. Those are two guys who I think would make minor contributions immediately and could blossom into stars by 2024, 2025. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks.